Okay, good evening. I would like to call to order the October 10th meeting of the Norwalk Common Council. The time is. Yeah, he said, yeah. The time is 7:34. If you'll please rise and join me in pledging allegiance to our nation's flag and remain standing after the pledge. I pledge allegiance. Please remain standing. Last evening, as many of you know, there was a service for the victims of the terrorist attack on Israel. There were approximately 1,000 people there. Several of us attended, including the governor, Senator Duff, Senator Blumenthal, Councilman Goldstein, Dominique Johnson, and several other council people, plus clergy from all over the area, Protestant, Jewish, Catholic, to show our support. And it was a very solemn ceremony, and it asked for a moment of silence in praying for peace for the Middle East. Thank you. Hey, clerk, if you'll please call the roll.
Mr. Burnett.
Present.
Mr. Camacho. Mr. Goldstein.
Here.
Ms. Najilski-Egner.
Present.
Ms. Smith.
Here.
Ms. Ayers.
Present.
Mr. Huvelman. Ms. Revolus.
Here.
Ms. Young.
Here.
Mr. Kaides. Ms. McMurr.
Present.
Ms. Alterman. Mr. Meek.
Here.
Ms. Shanahan.
Here.
Mr. Freyer.
Here.
We have 11 here.
11, we have a quorum. First item on the agenda is acceptance of the minutes of the regular meeting of September 26, 2023. Do I have a motion? Mr. Burnett moves. Are there any corrections, deletions, or omissions? Mr. Burnett.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. On page 9, in the 4th paragraph, the term DEA should be replaced with the term DEI.
Any other corrections, deletions, or omissions? Seeing none, all in favor of the minutes as corrected? Opposed? Abstentions? Ms. McMurr abstains. Next item on the agenda is public participation. Do we have anybody that we have? Mr. Reverend Clark is in the office, in the audience. And I don't know if there's anybody online that wishes to address the council.
Yes, we have Donna S. Please unmute.
Ms. Smirniotopoulos, you have the floor.
All right, there we go. Good evening, everyone. I wanted to speak to the agenda item, authorize the mayor, Harry Rilling, to execute the boundary line agreement and all other documents necessary to effectuate the adjustment of the property lines between Norwalk High School and Merrimack School. Important context is missing from this agenda item. The Norwalk High School plan requires taking land away from Merrimack School. That's not an adjustment. It's not a land swap. It's the seizure of land from one school to benefit another, and means the loss of a ball field for little kids. And it's not the first time in recent memory a land swap hurt the children. Let's not forget the history of the Norwalk High School project. No one on the Board of Education in 2019 identified the need for a brand new Norwalk High School. The State Department of Education was in the dark on this plan until October of 2019. Miguel Cardona, who is now Secretary of Education, was equally in the dark. According to Senator Duff, There was $200 million in bonded funds just lying around in Hartford, waiting for him to spend it. The State Department of Education was interested in regionalization, and Senator Duff's original plan was for an arts magnet school that did not fly with the state. So on the fly, literally within the context of a meeting, they came up with an expanded P-TECH program for one reason only, to qualify for the state funding. Not because we needed a new high school, because Senator Duff wanted one. Some of the council persons sitting here today were smiling for the cameras when the Norwalk High School plan was unveiled in late 2019. No one asked any questions. No one asked the most important question: how and why did the Ely project fall off the state's school construction priorities list? The narrative on Ely is that Connecticut Deep didn't approve the land swap. The truth is, we bend the rules all the time, take land away from this place and add it to that one, just as the council will undoubtedly do tonight to accommodate a catastrophically expensive and unnecessary building project for which we may never see the reimbursements we've been promised, and which may well cost us our AAA bond rating. And we need that rating for the needed school construction projects like the South Norwalk School. Everyone in the State House knew 3 years ago that the Norwalk High School project jumped the school construction line, did not go through the normal vetting process, unlike Ely, which was scuttled not because it wasn't vetted. It was on the state school construction priorities list until early 2020, but thanks to inaction from the same Norwalk members of the Hartford delegation who prioritized a building project that had never been previously identified as urgent. 3 years ago, when asked about the Norwalk High School project jumping the line without being vetted, our own Travis Sims, and he's a friend of mine and I like him, but he said that this school needs to be new is an understatement. It's a threat to our children, adding safety has to take precedence. This school needs to be torn down and built new. This is well overdue. I wish Mr. Sims had spoken as passionately about a new South Norwalk Elementary School, which is more than well overdue. When will our South Norwalk representatives start representing those who live in South Norwalk instead of bowing to an agenda set in the DTC caucus or worse in Hartford? Thank you for this time this evening. I hope that you will scrutinize the Norwalk High School project more thoroughly. I'm worried that this plan is going to sink us completely and we cannot afford it. Thank you and good night.
Thank you, Ms. Verndiotopoulos. Any other persons?
If anyone else would like to speak, please raise your hand electronically now.
Okay, that will close public participation. We have now resignations and appointments. There are no resignations. We have 2 reappointments. We should do them separately because we have one of them here. The first would be Alexandra Salazzo for the Fair Housing Advisory Commission. Do I have a motion? Mr. Burnett.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd like to move the reappointment of the Fair Housing Advisory Commissioner, Alexandria Salazzo. She is currently serving on the Advisory Board Commission and has served for a period of time and has served the commission well in providing guidance and necessary information for the commission to function properly.
Any further comments? Seeing none, all in favor? Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries unanimously. Thank Ms. Salazzo for her willingness to serve. Next item on the agenda is the reappointment of Richard Wesley Clark, Fair Housing Advisory Commission. Do I have a motion? Mr. Burnett.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd like to move the reappointment of Pastor Richard Wesley Clark to the Fair Housing Advisory Commission. He also currently serves as a commissioner on the Fair Housing Advisory Commission. Was recently appointed this year, and now this is a reappointment that will extend out for until 2026. His inspiration, his commitment, his passion to helping people is without reproach. It's outstanding. And to have him part of a commission that addresses fairness as it relates to fair housing is so appropriate. So we are honored and privileged to have him serve as a commissioner on this particular commission.
Any further comment? Ms. Ayers.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I also want to echo the words of my colleague and first say thank you to Dr. Clark for his current service on the Fair Housing Advisory. But I also want to bring light to the community and my colleagues that Dr. Clark is an advocate for all people. He comes from a background where suffering and suffrage is not anything that he is new to. He has a story, and we would say in church, a testimony of triumph, one of collaboration, one of steadfast dedication, and one to uplift the voices of those who sometimes are overlooked. I think it's also important to understand that since Dr. Clark has been a part of our community, he has been a force in our community, leading the IMF for several years, and their dedication and their steadfastness of elevating and worshiping God in the city of Norwalk. Many of our residents face uncertainty in housing, and it is people and citizens like Dr. Clark that allow those without voices to be heard, that can take the time to evaluate and examine the testimonies of people in their most sometimes their most dire position, and hear what they have to say about the current situation. I would like to thank Dr. Clark for accepting the opportunity to continue to serve the community in the city that he also loves as the commissioner on the Fair Housing Advisory Board. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Ms. Harris. Any further comment? Ms. Smith, and then Ms. Young.
Thank you, Mayor. Reverend Clark, thank you so much for your willingness to serve. It's an honor to know you. You have your commitment to and advocacy for all of our community is just extraordinary. Again, I'm honored to know you, and thank you for your service. I can't say any more than's already been said.
Ms. Young.
So I really can't say any more than that. And all I can really say is ditto to everything that my colleagues have said about you, Reverend Clark. I just count it a blessing and an honor to have sat with you on the MLK committee and in other areas. We've been around the table together, and I just so appreciate who you are and what you bring to the table. And so, as I've said time and time again, it's not easy to serve. Folks aren't stepping up every day to do this sort of thing. And when they do, we appreciate that. And we know that it's from the heart, because this is not easy work. And dealing with folks who are dealing with security issues with housing is real. And that's a very stressful thing. And it happens in this city. It happens everywhere across the country. And I'm very pleased that we have a Fair Rent and Human Relations Commission to address that issue for Norwalk residents. And I'm glad you are sitting at that table along with the other commissioners. So kudos to you again. And I guess we'll see you the next time around. So
Thank you. Any further comment? After all that, I can only add a couple of things. Dr. Clark, not only are you a special person, but you're a good friend. The passion you bring to helping the people of Norwalk. Sometimes when you meet somebody for the first time, you immediately recognize them as a special person. And that's how I felt about Dr. Clark. He's just a wonderful guy. And I really appreciate the fact that you bring such spiritual guidance to the city of Norwalk. So thank you. Now, having said that, I think we're probably getting ready to vote, so unless anybody else has a comment. Okay, so all in favor of the appointment? Opposed? I didn't think so. Abstentions? I didn't think so. Unanimously approved. Thank you. And thank you for your willingness to serve. Would you like to say any words?
To Mayor and the President and members of the Common Council, extend my gratitude to you for considering me to serve in this capacity. God being my help, I hope to do the best for the good of all people. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Okay, we now have the mayor's remarks. I made my remarks right after the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag. I think that really anything else I could say tonight would pale by comparison. So let's just keep let's keep the people of Israel in our hearts and prayers. Thank you. Mr. Burnett.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Moving to the consent calendar. Councilmember Josh Goldstein will be reading the consent calendar for today, October 10th, 2023.
Okay. All right, let's begin. Section 6A1, authorization to settle claim, Dana Hollingsworth versus Jane Surin in the city of Norwalk. 7A1, authorize the mayor, Harry W. Rilling, to execute a funding agreement and any other documents necessary to receive the $400,000 of funds from the 3rd taxing district to be used to make improvements to the leased property at 56 Van Zandt Street necessary to accommodate new fire apparatus. 7A2, authorize the mayor, Harry W. Rilling, to execute any and all documents and agreements necessary to accept grant funding under the Office of Justice 2023 BJA FY 23 Connect and Protect Law Enforcement Behavioral Health Response Program. 7A3, authorize the police chief, James Walsh, to execute any and all documents and agreements as may be necessary to implement the Office of Justice 2023 BJA FY 23 Connect and Protect Law Enforcement Behavioral Health Response Program. 7B1, authorize the mayor, Harry W. Rilling, to execute any and all agreements and other documents necessary to enter into a data sharing confidentiality agreement with the 1st taxing districts, the FTD, whereby the FTD will provide the WPCA supply water consumption data of the individual customers of the FTD, including total metered gallons, service address, owner's name, account number, and account type. 7B2, authorize the mayor, Harry W. Rilling, to enter into a right of entry and access license with CONDOT for the temporary installation, maintenance, and operation of a variable messaging sign for marine users at various locations in connection with the Walk Bridge replacement project. 7B3, authorize the purchasing agent to authorize a sole source purchase order to Cargill Salt for treated road salt for snow and ice control, pricing not to exceed $105 per ton for normal and after-hour deliveries effective for the 2023-2024 snow season, if it's a 2023-2024 snow season, account number noted. 7B5, authorize the mayor, Harry W. Rilling, to execute an amendment to the March 22, 2023 agreement between the city of Norwalk and the Colonna Masonry Concrete and Asphalt Paving LLC for project RT 2023-1 curb and sidewalk for Spring Hill Avenue area for an amount not to exceed $200,000, account numbers noted. 7B6, authorize the mayor, Harry W. Rilling, to execute a first amendment to the original November 22nd, 2022 agreement between the city of Norwalk and A. Vitti Excavators LLC for project BR 2022-1, parentheses, Site 1 and Site 2, parentheses, Bonnie Brook Road over Holy Ghost Fathers Brook, Site 1, and Cannon Street over Betts Pond Brook, Site 2, for a sum not to exceed $220,000, account numbers noted. 7C, land use and building management. 1, authorize the technical correction of common council action on August 8th, 2023. 7D3, to include the missing costs for Ponus, Rowton, Rowayton, and West Rock schools for an amount of $148,897.25, in addition to the approved amounts of $196,581 for a revised total of $345,478.25. The revised action shall be as follows, quote, authorize the purchasing agent to issue a purchase order to Integrated System Services LLC for the enhancement to school security access control improvements at Fox Run, Marvin, Narragansett, Nathan Hale, NACC, Ponus, Rowton, Rowayton, West Rock schools for a total not to exceed $345,478.25. Account numbers. 7C3A, authorize the mayor, Harry W. Rilling, to execute an agreement with Silktown Roofing, Inc. for the partial roof replacement at Roosevelt Center for a total not to exceed $370,700. Account number noted. 3B, authorize building management to execute change orders on contracts for a total not to exceed $37,070. Account numbers noted. 4, authorize the mayor, Harry W. Rilling, to execute a 3-year agreement with 1 2-year rental renewal option with Security Solutions Incorporated to provide security monitoring services for the Belton Main Library for a total not to exceed $990 per year, parentheses, annual increases no more than 3% per year. Funds are available from operating account number noted. 5A, authorize the mayor, Harry W. Rilling, to execute an agreement with ETT Environmental Services, Inc. for DPW Center Fuel Island Improvement Project for a total not to exceed $423,000, account numbers noted. And 5B, authorize the Office of Building Management to issue change orders on the contract for a total not to exceed $84,600, account numbers noted. Short and sweet.
Thank you, Councilmember Goldstein. You've heard the reading of the consent calendar for today, October 10th, 2023. I'll call for the question. All those in favor of the consent calendar as read? All those opposed have the same right. Any abstentions? It's unanimous. Back to you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. President. The next item is item 7B4, Ms. Smith.
Thank you, Mayor. Technical correction of the Common Council action of November 8th, 2022, item 7C3, to authorize the mayor, Harry W. Rilling, to execute an agreement with Crown Castle International for the East Avenue Advanced Utility Project, number 0301-0515NP, for an amount not to exceed $170,000, to authorize the mayor, Harry W. Rilling, to execute an agreement with Crown Castle International for the East Avenue Advancement Utility Project, number 0301-0515NP, for an estimated amount of $195,965.10. Account numbers noted. I would like to move that item and say a few words about it, if I may.
The item has been moved. Any comment?
Yes, so this is part of the undergrounding of utilities along East Avenue as part of the Walk Bridge project. This is a $20 million project, which capital funds have already been approved. When this agreement was first executed last year, we were able to create an estimated value. But what has happened since is there have been numerous agreements with the utility companies with more precise pricing. And so that is why these separate agreements are calling for us to make this correction to the agreement.
So basically it's an increase of $25,000. Further comment or discussion?
Looks like Mr. Meek.
Mr. Meek.
Yeah, thanks. I pulled this off consent just because I didn't know enough about it. And, you know, I understand we're forcing them to put their utilities underground, but, you know, this is a $40 billion company that's going to reap huge benefits off of having underground service for the customers. And it just seems a little silly to me why we're paying to make their business model better. That's all. Somebody can comment on that, but that's why I'm voting no.
Ms. Valadares is with us tonight, so I don't think I can give you any more information, Mr. Meek, than we have.
Okay, no further discussion? Okay, seeing none, all in favor? Opposed? Abstentions? Let the record reflect that Mr. Meek has opposed. And the motion passes. Next item on the agenda is 7B2. Ms. Smith.
C2.
7C2. Yeah, sorry.
Thank you, Mayor. Authorize the mayor, Harry W. Rilling, to execute the boundary line agreement and all other documents necessary to effectuate the adjustment of the property lines between Norwalk High School and Merrimack School. I'd like to move that item, please, and just say a few words before I turn it over to Alan Lowe,
Okay.
our Buildings and Facilities.
You have the floor.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, so my understanding of this item is that the boundary line was improperly drawn many, many years ago, runs currently right through the football field. And we're already using it for Norwalk High School. So we need to redraw that line through via the survey so that we can move forward with our reimbursements with the state. So Alan, I know I saw you here, so I'd like to just turn it over to you to add a few comments and answer any questions that people may have.
Mr. Lowe?
Good evening, member of Common Council and Mayor. Yeah, basically, what Councilwoman Smith said is pretty much what it is. It's I guess way back when the city acquired the property for Nalmic and Norwalk High School, that was the old property from those days. The property line in your agenda package, the property line is just shown on an existing building plan. The line actually draw across the parking lot and a little bit of Norwalk High School, the present Norwalk High School, and through the parking lot and part of the field. So the property line is not really critical because the city owns both property. Really the utilization of property between Nalmic School and Norwalk High School is what's important. The proposed plan doesn't change that. The little softball outdoor play area for Nalmic will generally stay the same way. Only things all we're doing is that we're rotating the backstop on the opposite side. The Norwalk High School uses that field for JV softball, and right now the right field is only 140 feet, which is really odd size. Typically, it'd be 180 to 200 feet. So by rotating the home plate on the opposite side, we gain a regular size 180 feet field all across the outfield. It doesn't at all changes the utilization of Nalmic School use of that field during the daytime. This plan has been reviewed at Nalmic School probably like a year ago, and nothing has really changed from that. So it is a improvement facility. Again, just because the property line is shown different ways, it really come down to utilization by each school. That's what's more important. So that's all I have.
Any questions? Ms. Ayers and then Ms. McMurray.
Thank you, Mr. Allen. I know this, and I'm just want to say that I will be voting for this, but I know that this proposal is just to correct some paperwork that was misfiled or filed incorrectly many decades ago. My follow-up correction is with the correcting of the property line. Will we be penalized by the state if we don't do it other than when it comes to reimbursement? So if we just left everything as it is, what would be the consequence for that?
It could be a major issue. The reason being is that currently the football field, it's actually on Nalmic's property line. So if we don't change it, the whole school would not be reimbursable. I mean, I'm thinking a little extreme kind of scenario here. The plan that we showed to put the building onto the existing football field, it's being very technical about it. It's still both property city owned, but it's been dedicated for I mean, it's shown as Nalmic kind of property, but at the same time, is that the utilization is what's important in front of us. So yeah, it will affect reimbursement.
Thank you.
Ms. McMurray.
Thank you, Mayor. Alan, you've been so great about helping keep the Nalmic parents and community abreast of what's going on with the Norwalk High School construction project. So I just want to take a moment to confirm that they are not losing a softball field, correct?
Nalmic School is not losing. They don't really use it for softball. They use it for open play area.
Sure, but they're not losing anything.
They're not losing anything, right?
Correct.
In fact, as part of our previous conversation that we had probably like 9 months, a year ago, there was discussion that the same plan was presented to them, and we haven't made any changes from there. But then part of the conversation was that the Nalmic parent group wanted a kind of a paved area near the playground area, because during when the ground is wet, they want something that close by that the teacher can mind the kids instead of going all the way to the basketball or court that's out the other end of the property, edge of the property. So this summer we put in a small area. It's not a huge area, but it's big enough that my staff, Joanne, and the principal, Jane Wilkins, they work together, identify location and the size, and it has been installed as of middle of August. So my commitment to at that time to the Nalmic School parents was that I'll look into it, but after we figure an area, then we actually put it in. So we are in full compliance to their wishes.
And so you said that the outfield needs to be moved on the softball field. What is the timing of that project if we have to do that?
It's probably around 2.5 to 3 years from now. We're not going to touch the area, so we won't interrupt Narragansett School. Only time when we do it would be probably affect them about 6 months. Basically, the play infield would be removed and grass we put in. So because we're flipping the infield on the opposite angle.
Great, thank you very much.
Further comment? Mr. Meek.
Thank you, Mayor. Alan, I understand there are land area minimum requirements for new school construction. Is there anything, moving this property line, I calculate roughly reduces Narragansett footprint to about 7 or 8 acres when 10 are required for a new elementary school? Are we going to run into any other problems by curtailing their footprint? Thanks.
As far as I know, there's no minimum limits. We typically, the city of Norwalk, and based on our experience, we typically look at elementary school between 7 to 8 acres and up to 11. When we look at South Norwalk School, Hatch and Bailey, it's the old Hatch and Bailey site is about 11.7 acres. So when you go acquire property, a certain portion that may not be as usable. You look at Cranberry School, a lot of it's wetland. So that property, I think it's about 14 or 15 acres. I may not be accurate those numbers, but it's probably up in 14, 15 acres of property, but a good portion is usable. So when you look at acquisition of property for school, whether it's elementary school, middle school, or high school, it really depends on the specific site, location, and the condition of it. That sometimes a grade changes, like the Hatch and Bailey property, the upper portion is really not very usable because they're about 70 feet higher than the lower portion of the property. So all that we take into consideration. So there's no real minimum standard that I know of in the state. And we typically, again, when the last few years, when we talk about, the potential Ely site and this site, we always look at least 7 to 8 acres for elementary school. That's probably minimum. There's different in terms of uses between elementary and middle school. Elementary school needs an outdoor area. They don't necessarily need to have sports field. When we get to middle school needs a little more playing. Sports athletic becomes a little more important, and high school even more. So there's a gradual expansion more than the size of the building. It's the type of use they have, the needs for the different grades. That becomes more important. That's all I have.
Are you all set, Mr. Meek? Any further comment or discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? Opposed? Abstentions? Please note Mr. Meek is opposed and no abstentions, so the motion carries. Now we have an item. I need a motion to add an item for under item 8X, suspension of rules. I need a motion to go up the Mr. Goldstein. Ms. McMurr, can you explain what is going to be added to the agenda so we can vote on that and then vote on the item?
Thank you, Mayor. So because of timing, I'm asking that this item be moved to the agenda this evening. It is it's for public safety and general government, to clarify. Is number 1, authorize the mayor, Harry W. Rilling, to execute any and all documents and agreements necessary to apply for and accept grant funding under the State of Connecticut Department of Transportation 2024 Distracted Driving Enforcement Grant, and all of the documents that go along with that. So number 2 is authorize the police chief, James Walsh, to execute any and all documents and agreements as may be necessary to implement the State of Connecticut Department of Transportation 2024 Distracted Driving Enforcement. This is just to make sure that we have time allotted to accept this grant funding.
So that's the item we want to add to the agenda. All in favor of adding that item? Opposed? Abstentions? Now, if you'll move the item, Ms. McMurr.
Thank you, Mayor. I would like to move this item. Do you want me to reread it?
Yes.
I don't think you need to, but if you'd like to, you're more than welcome.
I would suggest just reread it one more time.
No problem at all.
Thank you.
1, authorize Mayor Harry W. Rilling to execute any and all documents and agreements necessary to apply for and accept grant funding under the State of Connecticut Department of Transportation 2024 Distracted Driving Enforcement Grant. And number 2, authorize the police chief, James Walsh, to execute any and all documents and agreements as may be necessary to implement the State of Connecticut Department of Transportation 2024 Distracted Driving Enforcement Grant. I would like to move those items, Mayor, and just speak to them briefly. There's no matching funds to this grant. It's something that we do annually, and this is just a timing issue to make sure that we are granted those funds.
Thank you. The item has been moved. Any further comment or discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries unanimously. Ms. Revelous?
Motion to adjourn.
All in favor? Opposed? Abstentions? We are adjourned at 8:09 p.m. Thank you all for your attention.